She grabbed a stranger's hand in front of her ex just to prove a point. She didn't expect him to play along, and she definitely didn't expect to fall for the man she was using as a prop in her own petty revenge. I thought I had everything figured out. I was 32, running a tech consultancy that I'd built from nothing, living in a penthouse in Manhattan, wearing power suits that cost more than most people's rent. I had the life everyone said they wanted, except I was also the girl who'd just been dumped 3 months ago by a man who told me I was too focused on work and not soft enough. His name was Brad. Yes, really, Brad with the finance job and the country club membership his parents paid for. Brad who said he loved my ambition right up until the moment it made him feel small. He left me for someone named Tiffany who taught Pilates and posted sunset yoga photos on Instagram. I'm not bitter, I'm just saying, I thought I was over it, I really did. I'd thrown myself into work, closed 2 major deals, hired 3 new people, I was fine, I was thriving. Until my friend Rachel texted me that Brad and Tiffany were going to be at the same charity gala I'd already bought a ticket to. A gala I couldn't skip because half my clients would be there. So I did what any rational, successful woman would do. I panicked, then I made a plan. I wasn't going to show up alone and give him the satisfaction of thinking I was still hung up on him. I wasn't going to let Tiffany's sympathetic head tilt ruin my entire night. I needed a date, not a real date. Just someone who looked good in a suit and could stand next to me for 3 hours while I pretended my life was perfect. I asked 2 guy friends. Both were busy. I considered hiring an escort, but that felt too desperate even for me. And then the night of the gala, I was standing outside the venue adjusting my dress, trying to calm my nerves when I saw him. He was leaning against the building next door, scrolling through his phone. Tall, broad shoulders, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit that looked expensive but not flashy. Black, beautiful, and completely unaware that I was about to ruin his evening. I didn't think. I just walked up to him. "I need a favor," I said. He looked up, startled. His eyes were dark, cautious. "Excuse me. I know this sounds insane, but my ex is inside that building and I need him to think I've moved on. Just hold my hand, walk in with me. You don't have to stay. 5 minutes, please." He stared at me like I just asked him to commit a felony. "You want me to pretend to be your boyfriend?" "Not boyfriend, just someone. Please, I'll pay you." And that's when his expression changed. Not angry, just disappointed. Like I'd confirmed something he already suspected about people like me. "I don't need your money," he said quietly. I felt my face burn. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. You just assumed I'd be available to play a role for you." I should have walked away. I should have apologized and left him alone, but instead I did something worse. I started crying, not fake tears, real ones, because the truth was, I wasn't just trying to fool my ex. I was trying to convince myself that I was okay, that I didn't care, that I hadn't spent 3 months wondering if maybe Brad was right about me. He sighed. Then he offered me his hand. 1 hour, he said. "And you owe me an honest conversation afterward." His name was Marcus. We walked into that gala like we'd been together for years. His hand was warm, steady, and I hated how safe it made me feel. He didn't let go even when we stepped into the ballroom. He didn't pull away when I saw Brad's face across the room, that flicker of surprise followed by something that looked almost like jealousy. Marcus leaned down and whispered, "Which one is he?" 3 o'clock, blue tie, blonde woman attached to his arm. Marcus glanced over, then looked back at me. He's staring. Good. Is it though? I didn't answer that. Instead, I pulled Marcus toward the bar, ordered 2 glasses of champagne, and tried to ignore the way my heart was racing. This was supposed to be simple. Walk in, make Brad uncomfortable, leave, but Marcus wasn't playing along the way I expected. He wasn't just standing there looking pretty. He was asking me questions, real ones. "So what do you do?" he asked. "I run a consultancy, tech sector. We help startups scale. That why you're at this thing?" "Partially. Networking, clients, the usual." I took a sip of champagne. "What about you? What do you do when you're not being ambushed by desperate women outside galas?" He smiled, and it was the first real smile I'd seen from him. "I'm a resident. Surgery. I had the night off and was about to grab dinner when you kidnapped me. A surgeon. Of course, I dragged a man who spent his days saving lives into my petty revenge fantasy. I'm sorry. I said again. Stop apologizing. I said yes. Brad approached us before I could respond. He had that smile on his face, the one he used in negotiations. Polite but probing. Olivia, wow, you look great. Thanks, Brad. He glanced at Marcus, then back at me. I don't think we've met. I'm Brad, Olivia's old friend. Marcus extended his hand. Marcus, I'm her new one. I nearly choked on my champagne. The confidence in his voice, the way he didn't flinch under Brad's scrutiny. It was almost too convincing. Brad's smile tightened. How did you two meet? Through work. I said quickly. At the same time, Marcus said, mutual friends. Brad raised an eyebrow. Which is it? Marcus put his arm around my waist, pulling me closer. Both. We met through friends at a work event. Olivia's terrible at telling stories. It's one of her many charms. I should have been annoyed. Instead, I found myself leaning into him, playing along. Brad's jaw clenched. Well, it's good to see you happy, Liv. You deserve it. He walked away, and I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Liv? Marcus asked. He's the only one who called me that. Should I stop? Yes. But he didn't. For the rest of the hour, he called me Liv like it was the most natural thing in the world. He introduced himself to my clients, asked thoughtful questions, laughed at the right moments. He played the role so well that I started forgetting it was a role. When the hour was up, I expected him to leave. Instead, he said, "You promised me an honest conversation." We ended up at a diner 3 blocks away, still in our formal wear, sitting in a booth that smelled like grease and coffee. He ordered pancakes. I ordered nothing and then stole half his food. So, he said, cutting into his stack, "What's the real story? What do you mean, the ex? The desperation, the tears? That wasn't just about making him jealous." I picked at a piece of pancake with my fork. He told me I wasn't soft enough, that I cared more about my career than building a life with him. And the worst part is, maybe he was right. Were you happy with him? I thought I was. That's not an answer. I looked up at him. No, I wasn't, but I thought I was supposed to be. He was stable, successful, appropriate. All the things I'm supposed to want. Marcus set down his fork. Let me tell you what I saw tonight. I saw a woman who built something from nothing, who commands respect in a room full of people trying to impress each other, who cares enough about perception that she grabbed a stranger off the street, but who also broke down crying because she's exhausted from pretending. My throat tightened. You got all that in 1 hour. I'm observant. You're a surgeon. You're supposed to be observant. And you're a CEO. You're supposed to be strategic. But tonight wasn't strategic. It was desperate. And I think you know that. He wasn't wrong. I'd spent 3 months telling myself I was fine, throwing myself into work, avoiding anything that felt too vulnerable. And in one night, I'd unraveled in front of a complete stranger. Why did you say yes? I asked. You could have walked away. He was quiet for a moment, because I know what it's like to feel like you have to prove something, to feel like you're not enough just as you are. You're a surgeon. You save lives. I'm also a black man in a predominantly white field. I know what it's like to be looked at and have people make assumptions, to feel like you have to be twice as good to get half the respect. He paused. When you offered me money, I thought you were one of those people. But then you cried, and I realized you weren't trying to use me. You were just scared. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just sat there, feeling exposed and understood in equal measure. We talked until the diner closed. About his work, my work, the pressure we both felt to constantly perform. He told me about growing up in Chicago, about his mother who worked 3 jobs to put him through college. I told him about building my company from a 1-bedroom apartment, about the clients who didn't take me seriously until I made them millions. When we finally left, he walked me to my car. "Thank you," I said, "for tonight, for being kind when I didn't deserve it. You deserved it, He said simply, then he gave me his number, in case you ever need a fake boyfriend again or a real conversation. I drove home thinking I'd never call him. That this was just a strange, beautiful accident, a moment of connection that didn't mean anything beyond what it was. I was wrong. I texted him 3 days later, not because I needed anything, just because I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation, about the way he'd seen through me so easily and hadn't run away. We met for coffee, then dinner, then drinks. Then, suddenly, it was 2 months later, and he was in my apartment at midnight, still in his scrubs, telling me about a surgery that went wrong, and how he couldn't save the patient, and how sometimes he felt like he was failing everyone who trusted him. I held him while he cried. This man who'd held my hand when I was falling apart. This man I'd tried to use as a prop. We didn't call it dating. We didn't label it. But we kept showing up for each other in ways I'd never experienced before. He'd text me before big meetings, ask how they went, actually listen when I vented about difficult clients. I'd bring him food during his overnight shifts, sit in the hospital cafeteria with him at 3 in the morning while he decompressed. My friends noticed. Rachel asked if I was seeing someone. I said no, even though Marcus had stayed over the night before. Even though his toothbrush was in my bathroom and his favorite coffee was in my cupboard. I told myself I was protecting something fragile, that if I named it, I'd ruin it. But the truth was, I was terrified, because Marcus was everything Brad said I didn't want. He worked insane hours. He was emotionally available in a way that made me uncomfortable. He asked me hard questions and didn't let me hide behind my career. He made me feel soft, vulnerable, human, all the things I'd spent years trying not to be, and he was falling for me. I could see it in the way he looked at me, the way he remembered small details, the way he talked about future plans and casually included me in them. But I couldn't say it back. Even when he said, I think I'm falling for you, one night while we were cooking dinner in my kitchen. Even when he stood there, spatula in hand, completely unguarded, waiting for me to meet him halfway. I just said, you don't know what you're saying. His face fell. Olivia, you've known me for 2 months, Marcus. You don't fall for someone in 2 months. Why not? Because it's not real. This isn't real. We met because I was trying to make my ex jealous. You were doing me a favor. That's not a foundation for anything. That's how we met. It's not why I'm still here. But I couldn't hear him. I was too busy panicking, too busy building walls, too busy protecting myself from the possibility that this beautiful, unexpected thing could actually work. He left that night without finishing dinner, without kissing me goodbye, without saying he'd call, and I told myself it was for the best, that I was being realistic, that I was protecting both of us from inevitable disappointment. I threw myself back into work. Signed a new client, worked 16-hour days, ignored Rachel's texts asking if I was okay, ignored the toothbrush still in my bathroom and the empty space in my bed that suddenly felt enormous. 3 weeks later, I ran into Brad at a coffee shop near my office. He was alone this time. No Tiffany. Olivia, hey, Brad. How are you? Fine. Busy. You know how it is. He nodded, looking uncomfortable. I heard you were seeing someone. That surgeon from the gala. We're not together. Oh, he looked almost relieved. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? He had the decency to look ashamed. I was wrong, Liv, about what I said. You weren't the problem. I was. I couldn't handle how successful you were. It made me feel inadequate. I waited for the vindication to feel good. It didn't. I'm seeing someone new, he continued, not Tiffany, someone else, and I find myself doing the same thing I did with you, pulling away when she gets too close, making it about her instead of dealing with my own insecurity. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know it wasn't your fault. And because that guy at the gala, the way he looked at you, the way he stood next to you like he was proud to be there. That's what you deserve. Don't let him go because you're scared. I left the coffee shop feeling like I'd been punched in the chest, because Brad was right. I had let Marcus go, not because he wasn't enough, because I was terrified of wanting something I couldn't control. I called him that night. He didn't answer. I called again the next day, still nothing, so I did something I'd never done before. I showed up at the hospital during his shift, asked the front desk to page him, and waited in the lobby like a character in a romance movie I would have mocked 6 months ago. When he came down, still in his scrubs, looking exhausted and beautiful and guarded, I almost lost my nerve. Marcus, Olivia, what are you doing here? I need to tell you something. I'm working. I know, please, 5 minutes. He crossed his arms, waiting. I was wrong. I said, that night when you told me you were falling for me, I panicked. Not because I didn't feel it too, because I did. I do, and that terrified me. He didn't say anything, just watched me with those dark, careful eyes. I spent so long being told I was too much, too ambitious, too focused, too hard. And then you showed up and made me feel like I could be all of those things and still be loved. And I didn't know what to do with that, so I pushed you away. Olivia, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking you to know that I see you, that I see what you did for me that night at the gala and every night after. You didn't just play along, you saw me, the real me, and you didn't run. He was quiet for so long I thought he was going to walk away. Then he said, I'm still scared of you, you know. I blinked. What? You're brilliant and driven and you don't need anyone. You could build an empire by yourself and never look back. And I'm a resident who works 80 hours a week and barely has time to sleep. I don't know how to be enough for someone like you. You were always enough. I whispered. That was never the question. He stepped closer. Then what was, whether I could let myself need you, whether I could be soft and still be me. And can you? I reached for his hand, the way I had that first night. Except this time, I wasn't pretending. I'm trying. Marcus and I didn't get a fairy tale ending. He's still working impossible hours at the hospital. I'm still building my company, still taking calls at midnight, still forgetting to eat lunch. But now there's someone who brings me food anyway. Someone who texts me during his breaks just to ask if I'm okay. Someone who knows I'm not soft and loves me anyway. Last week, he met my parents. My mother pulled me aside and said, he looks at you like you hung the moon. I told her that's ridiculous, she said, and you look at him the same way, but you're too stubborn to admit it. Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm still learning how to let someone in without feeling like I'm losing myself. But I'm trying, and Marcus is patient. He's always been patient. Sometimes I think about that night at the gala, how I grabbed his hand out of desperation, how I tried to use him to prove a point that didn't matter, how I almost let the best thing in my life walk away because I was too scared to admit I needed him. I don't know if we'll last forever. I don't know if love is supposed to feel this terrifying and this safe at the same time. But I know I'm not letting go of his hand again, not for my ex, not for my fear, not for anyone. If you've ever pushed someone away because they made you feel too much, because vulnerability felt like weakness, because you were afraid of needing someone, drop a comment below. And if you're still holding on to someone who sees you, really sees you, don't let them go. Not for anything. Hit that like button if this story hit you in the chest. Subscribe if you want more raw, real stories about love, loss, and learning to be human. I'll see you in the next one.